Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to embark on a journey like no other. Welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast,
your go-to destination for a unique blend of recovery and discovery.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Mark. And in this podcast, we will endeavor to create a safe and uplifting space for our guests and listeners to share their stories with sincerity and a touch of humor.
Remember, we are not a Glum Lot. The Glum Lot Podcast is more than just a source of entertainment. It's a beacon of hope, proving that even in the darkest moments, recovery is possible. Every story we share carries the power to inspire positive change.
So buckle up, get ready to listen, and join us in discovering the strength that lies within every individual's journey. This is the Glum Lot Podcast, where humor meets hope. All right, Brett, welcome to episode number 78 of the Glum Lot Podcast. Boy, are we glad you're here, and I'm talking fast.
I will not be.
I
exhausted.
Hit the ground running.
Man, I love it. I'm going to need that today.
Okay, take some of mine because we want to remind people, join our Facebook group,
Yes.
Glum Lot Podcast Facebook group. If you want to email us, it's the Glum Lot Podcast at gmail.com. So smash that like button,
Yes.
hit that subscribe.
And send somebody our way that you think might have a great story that somebody might benefit from.
That'd be fantastic.
That would be wonderful.
Fantastico. What do you got for a topic today for our little discussion period?
I had a scout camp out this weekend.
Okay.
And I am a scout leader, and so that's part of my service. And I was having a discussion with one of the gentlemen, and he overheard me talking about with one of the other leaders that I'm close to about this podcast that I do.
Oh.
And so, I don't get too shy about this stuff. And I said, well, I had to make a lifestyle change. I said I became an alcoholic, and I had to make some changes. Went through this program. He's like, oh, yeah, I used to be an alcoholic.
Oh,
yeah. You
already
caught on.
How did you do that?
You already caught on, right?
How did you clear
Yeah,
that?
and I was like, oh, he says, yeah, I remember getting in trouble all the time, and there was a couple times I got in real trouble and got put in jail once, and he said that was enough. I was just done at that point.
Okay.
And I was like, oh.
Heavy drinker.
Yeah, right. And I was like, so how did you do that? He said, I just stopped.
Yep.
And so I was like, well, that's not my kind, right?
Yeah.
So then I had to, I didn't have to, but I wanted to at least tell him why I couldn't, right? And how I can't even touch the stuff, because he even said, well, I'd have a few drinks now and then, I just don't get out of control. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I get out of control.
My brother was the same way. He got into a little bit of a situation, and I think he was 18 or 19. He just stopped.
Yeah.
Never picked up again.
Yeah. My sponsee's brother did the same thing.
I tried doing that every day.
Yeah.
Just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't pull it off.
Yeah,
so.
definitely. And no matter how much motivation I gave myself, it didn't matter.
Yeah, that's the difference between those of us who have the disease and those of us who are heavy drinkers.
Yeah.
And
if you
God
want to
bless
stop
them.
drinking, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? But there's some of us that just can't do it.
Yeah.
And thank goodness we have the program of Alcoholics Anonymous to get us there.
Yeah. And what is the only requirement for membership?
A desire to stop
Right.
drinking.
And I have that every day.
I definitely do.
But at any rate, we have a guest today that
Well, that's a plus.
Yeah, I know, right? I know, otherwise people just have to listen to us.
Yeah, that's okay.
This comes to us by way of Matt.
Another
and
Matty.
I've never met this person, but let's welcome Jacqueline. Welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast, Jacqueline. We're glad to have you here.
Hi, Jacqueline. Hey.
We'd like to start with your sobriety date.
November 22nd, 2011.
Okay. And for the listeners out there, Jacqueline comes to us through our pal Matt Y from
Yes.
episode 1. So let's go back and start with your first exposure to the effects of drugs and alcohol.
And we want all
when you
the
were young.
details.
I think I was about maybe 11 years old. I was sneaking out of my house, and my brother, I was going over the porch, like back porch, and I looked over the window, and there's my brother. He's smoking pot. And I'm like, whoa. So
Hey, while you're here.
Yeah, so I ran back inside, started banging on his door, and I'm like, what are you doing in there? That was the first time. And then...
So you went in, you smoked with him?
Yeah, I went and smoked with him.
Okay, yeah.
And then I want to say I was about 14 years old the first time that I drank. And the first time I drank, I actually blacked out.
Nice. Went right to it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Good job.
That was not an exciting
So
night.
what was the flavor?
It was actually a bottle of tequila.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was it an unpleasant experience?
Yes,
Or?
it was. It was actually a really unpleasant
Was the
experience.
start of it pleasant?
Arriba.
Huh?
Was the start of it pleasant?
I think the start of it was exciting because I snuck out, so
Yeah.
you're like living on the edge. And then by the end of it, it was not exciting. And then I woke up in my bed the next morning and I didn't remember how I got there. And so that.
Did you feel like shit?
Oh, yeah.
But that didn't stop you, huh?
No. No.
How soon after that did you drink again?
I mean, I think I was just started to normally drink throughout high school because everybody was going out, having parties.
Yeah, normal stuff.
And like you're blacking out during high school, so you don't really know, everybody's kind of just blacking out, essentially just getting wasted, puking, and like, and to me, it's like
Part of the deal.
Yeah, you don't know, I have a problem until later on when people are slowing down and you're just revving up, getting DUIs, and they're getting
Sounds
degrees.
like we got the beginning of the story here.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So your drinking and smoking pot in high school seems normal to you.
Yeah.
And any other drugs?
My first year in college, I dabbled with cocaine, and that's actually when I went to rehab the first time. It was for cocaine; it wasn't for alcohol. And then
How did that come about? So you're in college.
Yeah.
You start snorting coke.
Yeah, my roommate at the time, she was dating a coke dealer.
Okay.
And so they kind of introduced me into it, and
convenient.
then just the first year, it was just nonstop. I mean, I got a .84 my first semester. That's like just having
Yeah,
a name.
girl. Man,
Very
I was
nice.
very similar. Yep.
the roster.
Nice.
So how did you end up going to rehab? Did somebody confront you, or did you tell
No,
somebody?
I was laying in bed and I woke up. It was like maybe a Sunday morning, and the sun was like blaring on my face. And I think my brother had gone to rehab prior, and I saw how his life turned around and how he went from like the bad child to like all of a sudden everybody's praising him. So I'm like, how am I going to get out of this?
How do I get some of that
0.8?
praise?
Yeah, basically. But when the sun was blaring on my face, it felt like, okay, this is the moment I need to go do what my brother did.
So you felt like you were out of control?
I mean, yeah, to a certain degree.
Did-
Yeah.
I mean,
I felt
when you-
empty more than I felt out of
okay.
control.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you weren't doing coke, you felt not good. You felt not normal or whatever. Is that what you're saying?
No. When
Okay.
I wasn't doing cocaine, I mean, I was coming down from cocaine, so
Right.
I couldn't answer anything. I remember I was in the bank and I was trying to open up a bank account. They asked me what my middle name was, and I totally like blanked. Then they asked me my social security number, and I totally blanked. And I mean, it's funny, but at the same time, it sucked.
No.
Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
felt like I was like literally burying myself alive.
Okay. So you go to rehab. Detox there?
I mean,
Wasn't
I didn't really need a
necessary?
detox. I
Yeah.
always had a really strong tolerance with everything. in
Okay.
life.
And so did they take you through the first couple steps there?
Yes, they did.
Did you think that you belonged there, or were you kind of just like, well, I'll do this and we'll figure it out?
I'll graduate.
I mean, I think I was just doing one day at a time. Really. Honestly, I didn't really have an opinion. I think I knew that something needed to change. So I was just embracing it. Did I think I needed to not drink? No, that was a different story. You
Oh, yeah,
know?
that wasn't the problem.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Okay. So
Cocaine was.
you
Even
got
though
her-
even though I blacked out.
Yeah, we got you.
Did they talk to you about meetings and having a program and all that kind of thing?
Yes, they did.
Did you pursue any of that when you got out?
Yeah, I did. Well, I pursued it, and then within 3 months, they did an intervention on me because I was drinking, even though I wasn't doing cocaine. I still was drinking. So then they did an intervention on me, and then they sent me down to Florida. I can say Florida.
Oh, yeah,
And,
Florida.
Say
um,
Florida.
Yeah.
Still one of the 50.
Yeah.
So they sent me down to Florida. Ooh, hi.
So just so I understand this, you got out of rehab and your drinking ramped up.
After the cocaine season.
Is that why?
I don't think it ramped up. It just didn't really. I don't know, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I think that I just thought it was the cocaine that was my main problem. And then when I put that down, I think I could see how the alcohol played a part. But I wasn't ready to, like, walk away from the social aspect of things. So I thought that I
Absolutely.
could, like, casually drink and casually do my thing. But when you go to rehab, it's like you got to drop everything.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Nice.
what spurred this intervention then? Was it something that happened?
Well,
Did you get in trouble?
No, I think I just wasn't sneaky enough, and I think they knew that I was drinking when I was going to outpatient.
Ah.
Okay. So there's an intervention. They put you, is this a long-term rehab you go to in Florida or just basically 28 day?
No, that was a 90-day program.
Was it a family intervention?
It was family. It was counselor.
Oh, okay. I got you.
So you go to Florida, you're back in rehab. This time you're going to take alcohol seriously though, right?
This time, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the program. And then I just stayed sober for a year. And then I met my first boyfriend down there, and then I started drinking again. Yeah.
Did you notice anything that had changed before you started? Did you stop going to meetings? Did you? So you meet. This is what happens a lot of times. You meet somebody in sobriety, and then AA and the meetings kind of start taking a backseat because you want to hang out with them.
The excitement of the new relationship.
You know what? I am sober today, and I found my freedom through Christ, and I didn't find it through the rooms necessarily or the 12 steps.
Okay.
But even though the 12 steps comes from a Christian background, right? It was the rooms that actually turned me away. It was my sponsor and the condemnation and the constant coming. They would literally, like, in my experience, they would sit down and they would bully someone and pick them apart and take their inventory in front of other people and make them feel.
Sounds like you had a shitty sponsor.
Sounds like a shitty room in general.
Oh, it was a bad group.
And this was AA?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the way it works.
And
Yeah,
looking
it
back,
exists.
so it was in Tampa, Florida, and there's a lot of young people down there. There was a lot of young people in the rooms. And I think that these people at the time, they were unhealed individuals that were taking out whatever they had not worked through onto the newcomers.
That sounds accurate.
Yeah, there are groups that are, they're not really practicing big book AA. And they think that they have a good way to do it. And I've heard of one of them locally.
Yep.
And they do it differently. And for some people it works, and for some people it just drives them away.
Yeah.
But we've heard enough of everybody telling us, putting us down and all that. So of course that's not going to work for you, right?
Right. And there's bad apples in any type of group or situation, and that was my experience. So that's kind of like what drove me out of the rooms and then back into the world, essentially. And I didn't really like the concept of calling myself an alcoholic every day. It's like I felt like I was talking about my ex-boyfriend every day, and I just wanted to find freedom from my ex-boyfriend, you know? So now when I found Christ, it felt like I became a new creation, and I identified alcoholism and hard drugs and stuff as a test I'm always going to fail. So no matter what, that's going to trip me up regardless. I can never drink again. I can't do drugs. Like, I can't do that stuff because it's only going to bring destruction. So you get out of AA and you start drinking again, right? Down in Florida with this new boyfriend. Do you come to some sort of realization as you're doing this that this is not for you? This doesn't work for you? How did you come to this point that you realized that drugs and alcohol were going to be, like you say, a destructive thing? It was complete insanity. I literally, so I had a
Enlighten us.
Yeah, I had a certain counselor, and I would call him like the next morning after a blackout, and then he wouldn't hear from me for a long time, and I'd call him again. I probably should try to contact him and let him know I have 13 years now, but I would call him crying, and he'd be like, he just always would encourage me, and then I'd disappear. And that's what it was like since I was 20 until I was 27. It was just on and off, and in between that, I was collecting DWIs. And I hit a rock bottom when I was 27. I got into a really bad car accident. I was driving on a suspended license from a previous DUI I got 6 months prior. I lost my license for 5 years, and that was the turning point of my life.
Okay. And so, not unlike us, you found a higher power.
Yep.
You came to the realization that you couldn't safely drink or drug.
Right.
It was going to lead you down
And you had somebody you could check in with, right? You said your counselor was always pretty good when you called.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was when I was still drinking and stuff.
Yeah. No, right. Yeah.
So was there a pinpoint in time where you just made this decision, never again? Like, this doesn't work. I'm not doing this anymore.
So, okay. So after my car accident, and I busted my eyes. My eyebrow. I had to have my nose surgically replaced. I broke my jaw.
Goodness.
My face was wild looking. By the grace of God, I lived through that. I still I was waiting for my family to find a rehab for me to go into after that accident. And I remember it was Halloween, and I still thought I could drink. I went out and cocktailed that night because my dad cut me off financially. He's like, I'm just giving you money for bills while you wait to figure out where we're going. He's like, and I'm like, I need money. Like, I want to go buy a sweatshirt. I want to, right? So I ended up cocktailing on Halloween night. And since I already had my face with stitches, I just was like, oh, it's perfect. I already look all messed up anyways. Yeah, it's a costume.
Took your bandages off and went out.
Yeah, exactly. So I cocktail waitress that night. And then I ended up drinking, and I ended up falling face flat in a blackout on a metal floor in an elevator, and I woke up in the hospital the next morning. And that was the first time after everything I've been through. I mean, I should literally have 6 DWIs. That was the first time that I was like, maybe I have a problem, right?
Even after all that.
Even after all that, right? And then when I went into the program, it was being in the program and being in a place where I was 27 and people are getting married and buying houses, and I'm sleeping in a bunk bed with 60 girls in a room. And I'm just like, I felt like I destroyed my life so much that's when I was like, I'm never doing this to myself again, ever. Like, it felt like
You hit a bottom.
Yeah, I felt like I had food poisoning. And then, though, when I met God in the program, then I became enlightened. And then I realized.
Now, what do you mean when you say when I met God in the program?
I don't know.
Like, what does that mean?
Explain it. It's like all of a sudden, just one day, your eyes open and you get to see the
you
world.
Had a spiritual experience.
Yeah, I had a spiritual awakening in the program, and I started to I read a verse, and it was Romans 12:2, and it says, "I do the things I don't want to do, but I do them anyways, and I don't know why." And the Lord says, "Sin is your master." And when I read that, it took me all the way back. I remember I used to call my mom, and I'd say, "Mom, I'm going to go out tonight, and I don't want to black out, and I don't want to get wasted, but I'm going to do it anyways, and I don't know why." So when I read that verse, I was like, "Whoa!" It just opened up my eyes. It became so alive and active.
Yeah, you know what that is? That's talking about powerlessness. Yeah, right. So that Bible verse says you're powerless over sin. You got to do something about that, right?
Yeah.
Powerless over alcohol. You got to do something about it. And so what do? You turn your life over to a power greater than yourself, and that's how you do it, right? And that's the only way.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, right. I mean,
for us.
Right. The way that I saw it was that, I was allowing the world to, be my guide. Yeah. I was allowing the world's standards of, getting wasted and boys and girls and working, having that be what guides me. And then when I realized, oh, my gosh, what's leading me is not of the light, I switched my gears and I switched my focus.
Yeah. It's to me that sounds like you're letting ego lead your life. Materialism.
Originally.
Yeah.
Right.
Like materialism, what you're sold in culture, all these different highs, all these different excitements. And you're ignoring what your soul and your higher power and the universe really wants for you. You're following yourself.
Right. And I think that the world trains us in a lot of aspects, especially through celebrities, to have us be distracted by the glitz and the glamour and how skinny they are and how this and that, and have that lead us So a lot of it, I didn't even realize that it was ego or anything, right? I was just a young girl who was hurting, and I was trying to get that void filled that was in the center of my chest, and I was trying to fill it with everything but God.
Right. Yeah. Well, when you are in the position of being a young woman who's looking to understand the world and herself and her place in it, and the loudest, brightest, shiniest thing is this influence of culture, which is always really just trying to sell you something.
Especially living in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, it's probably, yeah. So, I mean, it's, a more spiritual path is very quiet. And you don't get there through yelling and screaming. But all this other stuff is in your face 24/7. So, of course, you're like, oh, that's what I got to do to be happy. Yeah. I got to get this.
And it tells you will be happy if you consume it.
I've got to look like this. I've got to buy this. I've got to have this much. I've got to follow that.
And if I don't.
And then whenever you get there, there's nothing there.
Except for more.
So,
Can't
like,
keep getting more.
for me, as soon as the sun would go down, I would get super anxious. And that's my anxious attachment, right? But I didn't know growing up what that was. And I didn't know how to, like, I didn't know meditate through it and to, like, just really ground yourself in it and write it out. I was running from it. So as soon as the sun would go down, I would want to be in the bars, the clubs, around people.
Or we've got a prescription for that.
Yeah, right?
Right?
Yeah. So, and yeah, that was kind of like my journey. It was,
Interesting.
it was
And then when you
wild.
come right back down to it, you go, you know what? It was always there. I just couldn't see it. I couldn't
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah.
It was invisible to me.
Yeah, I was
you
just
know?
listening to a speaker about that. There's always something in us that does know. Like, it seems like even though we go and do some of these things, there was that one little thing that said, maybe not, you know?
Yeah.
It's, I don't
And,
know.
you know, the people I think that we lose to this disease and this way of life are the people who the denial is so strong and they can bullshit themselves so well that they just never come back to who they really are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we sell to ourselves.
And those of us that are lucky enough to either, I mean, you know, for me, I learned through pain that I was lucky enough that the pain became bad enough that I said, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. And then luckily, my higher power led
Stepped
me
in.
to the rooms of AA, and I started learning a sober way of life. But like you said, nothing was going to change until I put that down.
No, and I needed to be. I mean, I totally. I commend people who can get sober and still have a job and do it in the rooms. And I needed to be taken out of the world. That's how
Yeah.
crazy and insane my thinking was, and be put in a program for a whole year. And like, just they say, "Oh, that was brainwashing." I needed my brain to be
There
washed.
it
I
is.
needed
Yeah.
it to be
You needed a good
renewed.
scrubbing.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
we need to
still
be reborn.
Yeah, and I still like I'm working with a new therapist, and I'm just signed up for another grief group. So like, even though I'm 13 years in without alcohol, there's still layers of me that are peeling back like
yeah.
an
We're still
onion.
human.
Yeah, and
I
I'm
have
like,
been
wow.
I have been sober for 35 years, and I make new discoveries
Oh.
every day, and I'm like,
Sometimes even during this.
how did I not
Right?
see that before?
Yeah, because we're hearing
Or
other people talk
my
about it.
umpteenth million time reading a passage out of the Big Book. How did I not realize this
Yeah.
before when
Yeah.
I read it the other 5 million
Yeah,
times?
right.
But that's kind of the nature of the one day at a time thing. Is every day's a new day, and every day's a new discovery, and
And we aren't perfect. We never will be perfect.
Right.
Right?
progress over perfection. That progress doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've met people that have come into the rooms at my age, you know.
My
And-
sponsee?
Yeah, and then, you know, it's never too late.
Nope.
It never is too late. And, you know, I came in when I was 29. You came in when you were
45.
27.
Yeah. So everybody comes in at a different time. You know, I'm glad I got here when I was 29, you know.
I'm glad I got here when I was 45.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
You got to be glad for
Yeah.
today, you know. So now do you work with other people that have been in had the same problems as you? Do people reach out to you and say, "How did you?"
Yeah, I mean, well, so basically the way that I view it is that I got saved from this crazy path of life, and now my duty is to kind of be a vessel to be like worked
Nice.
through. So I'm very transparent and open, and I'm a full-time artist now, and I found my art through sobriety. So when people follow me with my art, I constantly talk about my journey, because without my journey, I wouldn't be an artist, right? And
right.
that also helps me to stay like, I don't know, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to. There are certain things that I've tripped up with, and, you know, like I'm very transparent with my audience, and I'm learning that like you need to speak from a healed place, whatever it is. Oh, sorry. And I'm learning that I can't be so transparent with everybody, like, but that's just who I am. Like, I want to allow other people to be their authentic self, if you will. You know what I mean? So,
And so they need to meet somebody that is that.
yeah.
To know that it's okay.
So, like, I just realized, like, I'm on this platform not to be that ego girl anymore. I'm on this platform to help others, to let them know what I overcame, to let them know that I found this talent of art that was always within me once I put the drink down, to let them know that they can overcome something. and that you don't have to be perfect the whole time. Like, we are
right.
human.
That's right.
And like, I just posted my sobriety date the other day, and I was like, listen, like on the 22nd, I stopped. Like, I haven't I overcame alcoholism in 13 years, but that doesn't mean that I am perfect. This doesn't mark the day of perfection. There's so much of me that I still need to work through and get through. So that, I mean, I don't know if did that answer your question?
Yeah. Let me ask you this,
going.
because, we have a lot of guests on who are like deeply into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Sure.
But I want to ask you, as someone who is not really involved in AA, but who is sober, what are some of your daily practices that keep you connected with your higher power, in your case, Jesus,
Yeah.
and keep you from not getting to the point where you'd want to pick up a drink or a drug?
Right. Well, honestly, like, praise God, like, I really do feel like I have found complete freedom from that desire. And I'm always completely honest with myself. Like, I don't know. I think, like, once I realized that that was a test that I'm always going to fail, there's something in that for me that's, like, powerful, where I'm like a light switch. My brain, it's like on or off type thing. And so, but what I do to help myself feel close to God, because that's how I feel fulfilled, and that's when I operate at my highest potential, is when I'm close to God. I wake up, I'll like read, so there's a Jesus Calling book that I read. I read that in the morning. I'll read Proverbs in the morning.
Are they like devotionals or?
Yeah, the Jesus Calling is a devotional book.
Yeah.
And then there's a proverb. So there's 31 proverbs in a day, like in a month. And so I look up the day, I'll read the proverb, because that's the book of wisdom. So it helps me to write. And then if I'm feeling super empty, I have a spiritual mom that I reach out to. I go to church on Wednesdays and Sundays. I listen to worship music. I listen to a lot of positive, just podcasts in general, a lot of sermons I go into. I try to just keep myself open to like Mel Robbins and Tony Robbins and the stuff that they're doing, and staying on course with my art has really helped me. It gives me kind of like, I get such a thrill knowing that I'm moving forward in my art. I don't know. It's like when I have art, Jesus, and all this stuff, and I work out. Working out every morning. So when I first got home from rehab, I would wake up, I would read positive things, I would go for a 2-mile run, and I would get my mind to be like secure, like, I don't know, like a kingdom.
Like grounded, yeah.
Yeah.
We call that emotional sobriety. I mean, it's similar.
Now I get up every morning, I also work out. So you have to take care of your mind.
Body, mind, spirit.
For real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I lack, even if I'm missing one of those things,
You can feel it.
Oh, I can feel it completely. So, and I like working out because it gives me that dopamine rush in the morning to get my day going. What do you do?
I do the same thing.
Hey, we're the interviewers.
Do you?
Believe it or not, I go to the gym on a regular basis.
Yep.
I talk to probably 3 to 5 alcoholics a day on the phone.
Yep.
I go to meetings on a regular basis. I sponsor a lot of people.
You read daily reflections.
I read daily reflections. I run a step study. I listen to a lot of podcasts that are spiritual and self-help stuff. Like there's one guy I've been listening to lately called Richard Rohr. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Yeah.
Franciscan.
You'd like it.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's great. And he relates a lot of things to how the 12 steps work and how it relates to Christianity and all this. It's really
Like you
that's
said.
pretty cool.
Oh,
Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, body, mind, spirit. Same thing.
Yeah, and you're a big proponent of meditating too.
Yes.
He wrote a book on
yoga, meditation. But I have, I fall short. I fall short every day. Some days worse than others.
Yeah.
But I keep going and I keep talking about it. And I have found, like most people I think in the program, and maybe you too, that when I'm trying to help someone else, that's when I'm at my best.
That's what I was just going to say. So I will say, like, if I'm struggling, I'm always super transparent with my audience. Again, I will talk about a storm, whether it's like a mental sometimes I feel like it's like a dark cloud that comes over us. And it's like you almost feel like it's a depression that comes over. And I'll be really quiet. And then when I come out of it, I'll talk to my people about what I went through, what I was. And in that, I'm helping others. Because sometimes people look at me, they're like, oh, she's got it all together. Like,
Oh,
she
of
got
course.
it. Right? Like, because they see me doing well in life. But I'm like, yo, I'm so human. It's not even funny. And then when I'm on murals, I've met a lot of homeless people. So then I use, I know I have a great following, and I will reach out to them for coats, and they'll give me coats. And then I'm
Awesome.
like, I'm the vessel again.
Yep.
And right now we're doing a coat drive through this one coffee shop. And we have filled up the coat thing, I think, 6 times. And last year they said they had one, another drive going, and they only got 4 coats. And we were able to fit, so I'm like, there's something that I got going
That's
through
right.
my people. And so, I noticed the service work aspect really lights me up. And I will say that I have thought about maybe being connected with AA again, or in some kind of, group of sober people, just for that community too.
course.
And then also, I've been able to go 13 years without picking up a drink. There's another girl in there that probably could benefit from hearing how
yeah.
I did
God,
it.
yes.
Oh,
Right?
yes.
Yeah.
Majorly need that.
I think in the beginning, though, I kind of stayed away from it because of my experience. And I
Yeah,
was more
you did have a
so.
bad
You had a bad
experience,
experience.
And I was really trying to get myself grounded, and I was grounding myself in Jesus. And then when I was in the program, they were saying whatever your higher power is, which is fine. But at the time, I needed to be around other people who
Yeah.
could relate with me when Jesus,
Sure.
So,
No, I think you'd have a lot to offer some of the women in AA, newcomers and whatever. It can be quite an inspiration. We'd love to have you back.
And quite a few of us,
I don't know if you know
end
this
up
or
where
not.
you are, anyways.
Yeah.
We
Right.
aren't necessarily believing in the Jesus
Do
thing
you
right
know-
away, but a lot of us end up there. Not
Right.
necessarily, but in religion again.
yeah.
You know.
And it's not even about religion. It's
No,
more
I
so
understand.
spirituality. I always tell people,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
there's a difference.
The only requirement for
100%.
membership is a desire to stop drinking. So as long as you still have that.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll take you back any day.
I know. She came back.
She's back, everyone. And you could pick up your 13-year chip.
Oh, that would be cool.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah,
I
we've
think
got
I'm
a
gonna do
great
that.
got a
Yeah,
great
that would
group
be
in our
awesome.
area.
Yeah.
A major bunch of groups.
Can you tell us a little bit about, you said when you got sober, you reconnected with art, and it became almost like a spiritual vocation for you, right? It's very closely parallels your spirituality. Can you talk to us about your work and your spirituality?
Well, let me tell you how I first found it. Okay, so growing up, I was always creative, but I never knew that I could paint. It was nothing that I was never seeking trying to be an artist. Other people would say it to me,
Sure.
but it was almost like growing up, I couldn't even see myself. I was just going through life. And then when I got home from rehab, I had a relationship with God. So when I would hear something that would drop into my head, like go into the basement, I knew that wasn't necessarily coming from me. So that was my guide. And I'm like, all right. So I went down to the basement, and I thought I was going to rummage through some journals. And long story short, I heard God say, look to your right. I looked, and there were 3 blank canvases. My mom just got done taking a painting class in Skinny Atlas, and I grabbed it. So I went upstairs. It was a Friday night. I mean, all my friends, I went to high school in this area. But when I came back, all my friends are gone, married, moved away. So
Yep.
I'm like, this is not Florida. It's snowing. There's no
Yeah.
beach.
Nope.
What am I going to do? So I started to paint. I started to put paint on my hand. And again, it was late at night. I put worship music on. I had paint on my hand. I smeared it on the canvas. And I just remember watching the gold metallic and the purple and the turquoise.
Everything coming together.
It was just yeah. But it was I was high, but I wasn't high.
Yeah.
And I was
Well, sure.
getting that satisfaction of being drunk in the club, but I wasn't. And I started to get this euphoric feeling. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm creating things while people are sleeping, and I'm moving forward and they're not. I used to think that way,
Time
right?
to chase that.
Yeah, so that's kind of how my art started. And then I realized that I was always chasing God, and I was drinking more and more, thinking I was eventually going to find that feeling that I finally found sober when I was in the paint.
Yeah, and the creative process, once you get a taste of that,
Oh, there's nothing like
it's
it.
beautiful, man. It's,
Oh, it's so euphoric.
yeah, it's great. So you did, and then you started to have commercial success, right?
Yes.
So I know that through Matt that you are you paint large format murals and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I actually, when I first started painting, I remember I would tell people, I'm not painting 8 by 10. I'll paint an 18 by 24 for you and charge you the same as an 8 by 10, but I love to paint big, right? So over the years, I started to do canvas more and more, and then I went to Colorado to go visit a friend, and they had murals everywhere. And I'm like, I want to bring this back to Syracuse. At the time, I really wanted to move, and then I was like, you know what? Why don't I bring all the things that I love from all these cities? Why don't I try to at least bring some of it here? And we didn't really have murals going on in this town, and that's kind of like how it started. And when I first landed. My first wall I landed was a gift to this woman who had supported me. She bought over $10,000 in artwork for me. She threw an art show. She did so much. I said, let me gift you with a mural, and I just need your wall. And I did, and she loved what I ended up doing.
Was this indoors?
This was outdoors.
Okay.
She loved what I ended up putting on her wall. But she also gave me an opportunity to learn how to work on brick and how long.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Those
it was the
different mediums, yeah.
Yep. It was the beginning of it. And when I did that, I was like, oh my gosh, it was big.
Yeah, right.
And so the bigger, the better. And then when I did my 3-story mural just recently, it's like, I don't know, like that doesn't, I want to do 5 stories. I want to do 6 stories. It just feels so like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's great when you stand back and look at it. Right?
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's huge.
So much bigger than yourself, too.
Yeah, and you don't have to be so perfect when it's big.
That's correct. Right.
When you're on a smaller scale, it's like everything has to be perfect. But if it's on a bigger scale, you can have more room for imperfections, and it's still beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and I also found my spray painting, and then I love the spray paint because I don't know how to. I don't like switching brushes when I paint. I like to just use one brush. I don't know if it's because I'm lazy or what it is. So then, like, with the spray paint, it was just more so like,
yeah, right.
You know, I don't know, more
free-flowing.
free-flowing.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I get that.
Because, again, it's an energy that I'm trying to release. It's not necessarily the subject matter that I'm trying to create.
Yes.
So.
I've done some big work too.
Are you an artist?
I have artwork out there in the world.
Do you really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Wait, have you done murals?
I did a 30-foot long piece for a hospital.
I am now learning something.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Wait, are you going to show me?
After the podcast, I'll
mural,
show you my Tumblr
yeah.
page. It's got all of my stuff on it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and some
What the
insurance
hell,
companies.
dude? I didn't know any of this.
Some insurance companies have my stuff in their lobby.
That's so cool. Wait, did you find...
are you?
How did you find your painting or your artistic?
You know, when I was a child, IMPA built the Everson Museum,
Okay.
and John Lennon came and to the dedication. And I was a little kid. My mother took me. And then she enrolled me in their art lessons. I think I might have been, I was definitely less than 9 years old, but I loved it. And as I grew up, I was always a creative person, visually creative. And then I ended up going to school for television, radio broadcasting, and ended up shooting and editing. And I started a video production company, and I was doing, for 35 years, I had a video production company. And so during that time, I started to learn more about art, modern art in particular, and I just fell in love with it. And one day I just started painting again. And I'll tell you what it was. I bought a house, and I had nothing to hang on the wall, and I started looking at artwork, and I thought, maybe I'll just make something.
Oh, I love it.
And so I did this painting that wasn't huge. It was maybe 4 by 2. And I loved the process. And it looked good, and everybody was like, oh, my, I love that painting. Where'd you get it? I said, I made it. Yeah. And then I started just banging them out. And I was, that's all I was doing for a while. I got really into it, deeply into it for a while. And now I just dabble once in a while. But if and occasionally somebody will go, hey, can you make me something to hang in my space? And I'll go look at the space, and I'll figure out what colors and what size and what style, and I'll make them something.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and it's fun. But, I mean, nothing like you're doing something massive.
That's cool, though.
Yeah.
You know, the first time that I took one painting class in college, and I remember looking back, that was probably the first time that I actually wanted to stay in and not go out and drink. I would drink a glass of wine at home and I'd listen to my music, but it's funny looking back because then God took that and he put that in my sobriety.
Well, it's interesting when you talked about your process, because I in a room over here across the way, I cleared out a little art studio. I brought in some audio equipment. I would play like new age meditation music, and I would be down there for 6 hours straight, just grooving on it. And it was like you talk about the euphoria, and you lose sense of time, and you're in this creative connection. And I get the same thing through music, and I'm in a sober band.
Oh, cool.
And I get the same thing from that. Or doing this podcast is another thing. All these creative things. I'm a creative person, and that's where I find my ability to thrive.
I think that a lot of creatives naturally have a drug or alcohol addiction because that's like the quickest rush of something.
You know something,
right?
if you look back on all these, creative people, there's a lot of drugs and alcohol involved in all that stuff.
When really we have it already locked in us, we just need to unlock it in a sober way. That same feeling and rush, right?
Yeah, and that's what AA gave me. I mean, I hadn't picked up a guitar since when I was drinking, and then I got into AA, and a sober friend of mine said, "Hey, they're at the Roundup, the AA yearly thing.
Yep.
They have a talent show. Would you want to do a song?" And I'm like, "Okay." Well, years later, we're playing. We've already got 20 dates booked for next year. We played about 40 this year, and we're all in AA.
That's so cool.
And we play. A lot of our sober friends will come out. They'll come out to a bar to see us.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
cool.
But they're all a giant sober group, and it's so much fun.
I love sober
awesome.
dancing. Like that's like my new thing. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, I feel good.
Cool, awesome. So, Brett, do you have anything?
No, I'm just amazed at this whole conversation that I'm learning about. I'm sitting here reflecting about, I used to be huge into furniture making and finishing, right?
Right.
And that's gone away.
Maybe we're going
And I haven't tapped into it yet because that's been a thing for me is it's so, I don't understand why I have not gone back to it, right? And I used to love cooking too. I have not done either one of them. I'm 3 years. So, I think I'm still exploring some of those things and learning about some of those things. But, I used to do a lot with woodworking and furniture making and all that stuff and loved it. But it's just gone.
I bet if you got back into it,
I
even
think so.
cooking, do a little bit of woodwork, I think you would watch your whole sobriety life elevate to a different level.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm being honest, I think there's still some wreckage in my garage that is preventing me from getting into it, right? Because everything was disarray then. I'd make something and I'd just leave everything around, and I have not been able to go back in there either since then.
Yeah,
so it's interesting, right? But I'm just sitting here listening to this, and it's just making me reflect on my experience, right?
Yeah, and some of the gifts of sobriety are...
And I want you to paint something for me.
Oh, there you go. Some of the gifts of sobriety are very subtle, and they take a while, to come out.
Yeah.
I have found. Another one for me is writing. I used to write when I was young, But when I was drinking, I never really, when you're drinking, you think about doing a lot of things. I think I should probably, but then you just drink, I think I should, I was really good at, but...
See, I was the opposite.
It's the old bar stool
and that comes
thing.
from, we've talked about this, it comes from my ADD, right? When I drank, it calmed my mind so I could be creative.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, not me. It would just make me not give a shit.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
Yeah, I never thought about maybe I should. Maybe I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm going out and getting twisted and dancing. That's what I'm doing. So now I feel like I get excited because I'm like, maybe I should. And since I'm sober, I actually do. And then,
you hear a lot of, we talked about celebrities before. There's a lot of celebrities in recovery that their careers blossomed in sobriety.
Yeah.
And before they were just, I'm the bad boy. Oh, that guy, he's tough to work with. And then they get rid of all the bullshit.
And we've heard that time and time again.
Yeah, they get rid of all the bullshit and they become a great producer, director, writer. it just really puts them back on the path they were naturally meant to be on. But,
Our eyes are open to a completely
yeah.
new world.
What advice would you give to a young woman who was experiencing the same path you were before you got clean?
Well, there's no man that's going to fill you. Oh, that makes me want to cry.
Yeah. Well, we hear that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like nothing is going to fill you except your spirituality and just reflecting inward, honestly. So my advice would be, if you're struggling, if you feel empty, if you feel anxious, if you feel misunderstood, it would be to literally ground yourself down in a spirituality. For me, it was Jesus. And to just really allow him to take out all that hurt and pain that you've ever been through, and to let him replace it with seeds that are going to blossom, seeds of hope and life, and to just find good people to lean on, and prayer. You know, prayer really helped me a lot. I used to think that was fake.
Yeah.
But it really is a real thing. And
It works if you work it.
yeah.
So work it. You're worth it.
Yeah.
Right? It takes that first step. And it usually comes through reaching out for help. And then somebody is going to say, hey, you know what worked for me? Like if somebody's listening to this is what worked for you.
That's right.
You know? But there is a way out.
Oh my God, yeah. You will get out of that hamster cage, the circle.
Hamster wheel, yeah.
The wheel. Oh my
yeah,
God,
yeah. So.
So,
Well, it's been great having you on.
thanks.
And,
I just want to know, do you want to plug?
What?
Do you want to plug?
Yeah, plug your
My goodness, yeah.
your
sure.
Instagram.
Okay.
Where can people find
yeah,
you
let's
and your
go
work?
there. Pete's sakes.
My name is Jacqueline Colello. You can find me at Colello, Colello Creations. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Also, I have a website. It's just not updated, and that's colellocreations.com.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being here. And until next time on the Glum Lot Podcast, I'm Mark.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Jackie.
As we wrap up another episode of the Glum Lot Podcast, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who tuned in today. Navigating the path to recovery from alcohol and other substances is a journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and self-discovery. Remember, we're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but we're here to provide a safe space for open conversations about the complexities of recovery. Your stories, courage, and resilience inspire us and our listeners alike. If you or someone you know is on the transformative journey, know that you're not alone. Join us next time as we continue to explore the diverse facets of recovery. Until then, stay strong, stay connected, and remember that each day is a step towards a brighter, sober tomorrow. Thank you for being part of the Glum Lot community.